Hello to everyone. This is Viewpoint on Noyan Tapan TV, and I am Benyamin Poghosyan. In this episode, we will continue our discussion on ongoing blockade of Lachin corridor by Azerbaijan. The blockade started on December 12, 2022, and in early stages there was a perception that Azerbaijan imposed the blockade. Azerbaijan wanted to show that it had some complaints, it had some dissatisfactions of the ongoing peace process or the lack of peace process between Armenia and Azerbaijan, but at the end of the day, if not within days, at least within weeks, or at least by the end of 2022, Azerbaijan would end the blockade. However, we already in the second half of the January, and blockade continues. By blocking the Lachin corridor, interestingly, Azerbaijan pushes forward both Western agenda, but somehow also Russian agenda. So, we all know that the West is interested in having peace agreement between Armenia and Azerbaijan. And the West believes that the peace agreement between Armenia and Azerbaijan is not only the reliable path towards the stable South Caucasus, but also is a reliable path towards pushing out Russia from the South Caucasus. From Western perspective, Russia always have manipulates and will manipulate the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict to put pressure and get a leverage on both Armenia and Azerbaijan. Thus, from this logic, if Armenia and Azerbaijan sign peace agreement and if there is no conflict, then Russia will have no leverage on Armenia and Azerbaijan. Even more, if there is a peace agreement and there is no conflict, then there are no reasons for Russian peacekeepers to be stationed in Nagorno-Karabakh beyond November 2025. And also then, question may arise. If there is a peace between Armenia and Azerbaijan, and most probably peace between Armenia and Azerbaijan will also facilitate the normalization of Armenia-Turkey relations, then men in Armenia may ask questions. Why we need Russian military base? Why we need Russian border troops deployed in Armenia? Why we need to be member of Eurasian Economic Union? And why we need to be continued be a member of Collective Security Treaty Organization? So from all this logic, West supports the signature of peace agreement between Armenia and Azerbaijan as soon as possible. Again, to secure stability in the region, but also to create necessary conditions to push Russia out from the South Caucasus. By imposing the blockade on Lachin corridor, definitely Azerbaijan creates more obstacles towards the resumption of the peace negotiations. We all know that after the momentum in September, early October 2022, when after the signature of Prague Declaration, there was a hope and there were perceptions that Armenia and Azerbaijan were very close to sign a peace agreement by the end of 2022. There was some break in negotiation process. Last time, Armenian and Azerbaijani foreign ministers met on November 7 in Washington. After that, no meetings took place. Azerbaijan cancelled the meeting in Brussels because Armenia required the participation of President Macron in Brussels format. But then Armenia cancelled the meetings between Armenian and Azerbaijani and Russian foreign ministers scheduled on December 23, 2022. And Armenia said that while the Lachin corridor is blocked, Armenia is not going to negotiate. So by continuing the blockade of Lachin corridor and triggering a real humanitarian crisis in Artsakh, and also opening and closing and again opening the gas supply to Nagorno-Karabakh, and also cutting the electricity supply from Armenia to Nagorno-Karabakh since January 9, 2023, Azerbaijan really triggered humanitarian crisis in Artsakh when people have to buy food based on the check system, on rationing system, and definitely this does not create positive environment for continuing or resumption of peace process. From this logic, if the West is interested in the peace process and in the signature of peace agreement to also push out Russia from the South Caucasus, then Russia should not be interested in the final peace. Russia may be interested in the process, but Russia should not be interested in the final agreement between Armenia and Azerbaijan. From this perspective, what Azerbaijan is doing, creating more obstacles for the resumption of peace negotiations or peace process, this is in line with core Russia's interests, and this is clearly in contradiction with Western interests. But from another point of view, by putting blockade on Nagorno-Karabakh, Azerbaijan also plays Western cards, because every day of the closed Lachin road is another blow to the Russia's image in Armenia, and every day, as far as road is closed, there are more anti-Russian sentiments in Armenia. Plus, Russian peacekeepers are being discredited all over the world. Also, by closing the road, Azerbaijan somehow repeats Western message that due to the strategic failure in Ukraine, Russia now is in a much weakened position, and not only great and middle powers can challenge Russia, but also small power like Azerbaijan can afford itself to challenge Russia, can afford itself to mock Russian peacekeepers, and to humiliate and provoke Russian peacekeepers. Another message, which is in line with Western messaging, that Russian army is weak, and again, by humiliating Russian peacekeepers and by mocking and provoking Russian peacekeepers, Azerbaijan also proves this message, that the Russian army is really weak. And also by putting pressure on Russia's ally Armenia, Azerbaijan also amplifies another Western message, that every country which still is in allied or partnership relation with Russia should be very careful, because Russia is not able to protect the core interest of its allies, which means that every country which is still is ally or partner of Russia, including Armenia, should make right choices. Because again, due to the strategic failures in Ukraine, due to the defeat imposed on Russia in Ukraine, Russia is not able to protect its allies, Russian army is weak, and Russia is going through the very complicated path in its history. So as we see, by imposing blockade on Lachin corridor, Azerbaijan simultaneously somehow supports the Western messaging against Russia, but also somehow plays in the interest of Russia by preventing the resumption of peace negotiations. Most probably, Azerbaijan believes that by passing this very narrow line, simultaneously pushing forward both Western and Russian agenda, it could afford the blockade of Lachin corridor much more. At the end of the day, the key demands from Azerbaijani side, and there are now 3 of them. First, establishment of checkpoint on Lachin corridor. Second, resignation of Artsakh State Minister Ruben Vardanyan. And third, the closure of Kashan mine or the permanent monitoring in Kashan mine according to Azerbaijani laws. But I believe that key for Azerbaijan here is the demand to establish a checkpoint on Lachin corridor, because it will mean that Nagorno-Karabakh is becoming part of Azerbaijani legal space. At the end of the day, Azerbaijan is not able to establish checkpoints on Georgia's territory, Armenia's territory, and on Iran's territory, and any other country's territory. If Nagorno-Karabakh, Russia and Armenia agrees that Azerbaijani checkpoint should be established on Lachin corridor, it will be another signal that Nagorno-Karabakh is part of Azerbaijan, and that Nagorno-Karabakh is part of legal area of Azerbaijan. So, how Azerbaijan may stop the blockade? Definitely one option, when Armenia, Russia and Nagorno-Karabakh authorities satisfy Azerbaijani demand. If not all 3, at least the demand on the establishment of checkpoint on Lachin corridor. Because as I mentioned, this is the most important demand for Azerbaijan. Somehow they will say, okay, let Ruben Vardanyan still be a state minister, we will deal with Vardanyan a little bit later. Okay, at least this mine can continue its activities, but if there is a checkpoint on Lachin corridor, Azerbaijani checkpoint, it's another very significant step by Azerbaijan to show that Nagorno-Karabakh is Azerbaijan, that Nagorno-Karabakh is Azerbaijan's legal, part of Azerbaijan's legal area. So one scenario, Azerbaijan stops blockade because partly or wholly its demands are being satisfied. The second option is Russia continues to put pressure on Azerbaijan. Of course, we all understand, and Azerbaijan knows, Russia knows, that Russia is not able to use force against the so-called eco-activists. But Russia still has some political diplomatic means. And we see that recently Russia put forward some ideas that, okay guys, let's agree that Russian peacekeepers will check more cautiously all cars and vehicles which are passing through Lachin corridor. But again, there should be no Azerbaijani checkpoints. But Russian peacekeepers will check every car, so somehow to satisfy Azerbaijani demands or somehow to elevate Azerbaijani concerns that, as Azerbaijan argues, that some weapons are being transported via Lachin corridor. So the second option is this, that Russia continues its diplomatic political maneuvering with Azerbaijan, and at the end of the day, Azerbaijan is forced to open the corridor without any Azerbaijani checkpoint, but with some increased checking by Russian soldiers or Russian peacekeepers over the Lachin corridor. And third option is international pressure, mostly Western pressure, against Azerbaijan to force to end the blockade. But here we should understand very clearly that statements, resolutions, like the resolution of European Parliament, statements by US State Department, some state institutions from France, from European Union, from Switzerland, from Austria, statements posts in Twitter, posts on Facebook, they are absolutely not necessary and not enough to force Azerbaijan to stop the blockade. The only real thing which West can put on the table and force Azerbaijan to end the blockade is the threats to put sanctions on individual Azerbaijanis, including the leadership, on Azerbaijani companies, or on Azerbaijan as a country. As far as there are no credible threats that Azerbaijan will be sanctioned by the West, most probably the third option, that blockade may end under the Western pressure, is not going to happen. So in a very short term, regarding like days or even weeks, probably Azerbaijan will be able to continue the blockade, because as I mentioned, West is not ready to threaten Azerbaijan with sanctions, and at least Nagorno-Karabakh Republic is not ready to accept Azerbaijani demands, especially on the establishment of checkpoint on Lachin corridor. And Russian political diplomatic maneuvering, somehow to satisfy partly Azerbaijani demands and also to reach the end of the blockade of Lachin corridor, still probably Russia needs more time. This is all for today, and we will meet soon.